One problem with gacha games, in my opinion at least, is if you follow like the meta that everyone is playing, it tends to be gravitating towards a very few and small pool of roster, and especially if you do not have these characters, the access to information that you have for what else do you use tends to be quite lacking. And hey guys, it's me, EODGamer here, and in this video, I want to share with you, what if you don't use like the meta most popular characters, you are free to play, you don't have every single godlike character, or maybe you're just a new player and you just want to figure out, if you don't play meta, why is no one talking about what else you can use? In this video here, I'm going to shed some light on some of these purple guys, even some gold guys as well, to actually tell you what else and who I think is like kind of mispriced in terms of appearance rate, usage rate, whatever not. And if any of you have seen our other video where we talked about all the data, historic and future, this is going to be slightly different from past and future trends. What I want to tell you is mispriced data, because if you realize data of characters, people using these characters is likely because one, is very popular, everyone is doing the same thing, is meta, of course you can't deny all of those things, but very often the characters that are not meta, which are still viable, tend to be shunned out a little bit more than normal, and this video I want to actually talk to you about them. The first character out of all of them that I want to mention, and you know we don't waste time with Chow, so let's jump right in, is Huynh. Some of you might be surprised, like this character, no one talks about her at all, but I think she's a very, very good character still in currently as of time of recording in version 2.0 and even 2.1. Maybe there's going to be a very strong DPS coming up that could even use her entire kit. I think Huynh is very underrated, and let's go into the better screen so I can show you like her kit and explain more in detail. Where's my Huynh? Let me just scroll real quick. The reason why, let's talk about a few things. Firstly, why is this character underrated? If you look at all the Harmony characters in the game, you have characters like Bronya, you have characters like Tingyun, who are relatively free. I mean, they are kind of equal standard, right? Tingyun is also a limited 4-star, Huynh is also a limited 4-star. They are equally as difficult to get, kinda. Maybe Huynh even more harder to get. You have Bronya, who's like technically like the easiest of all of them because you can get her guaranteed from 300 standard pools, which most people will get that eventually. And even new characters that are coming up, like for example Runmei, who is a limited 5-star that's like super meta, and also Sparkle that's coming up in the second half of version 2.0, also supposedly going to be very meta as well. So many options already. And Huynh, what is her unique place? I think she's very underrated because she offers a lot of hyper carries what they need. And let me just show you. In her skill here, she's a net skill point positive character. You apply this like burden on the enemy, which is like some sort of debuff as well if you're looking for any of that. And anytime your teammate like attacks, skill, ultimate, whatever not, you basically recover skill points thereafter, making her a skill point positive character and a buffer at the same time, unlike your other Harmony characters. Like out of all of them, probably Tingyun, probably Runmei, probably Sparkle, these three characters might be your only option for skill point positive. Huynh is the next one on the list that is also skill point positive if any of you want to funnel that into your DPS, allowing you to run another skill point hungry character, for example like Bronya. This makes it actually viable to play Bronya together with Huynh in the same team if you do not have a character like Sparkle. Maybe you're hyper carrying a character like Dr. Ratio, Akirion, who knows who else you might want to hyper carry in future as well. It's very possible. One other thing that she does that Tingyun doesn't do is she buffs speed in her ultimate and attack percentage instead of energy restoration rate. If you guys go over the Tingyun here real quick and you look at her ultimate, Tingyun buffs energy. For a character, any character in future that doesn't use energy won't be able to capitalize on this 4-star unit, which means that Tingyun's value drops when a new meta unit that doesn't use energy is appearing into the game. Who knows when that might be. But that makes Huynh actually increase in value, because if you don't use energy and you care only about action, advance and turn order, speed becomes much more valuable. And of course characters like Asta and whatnot will increase in tandem. But this unit here, very attractive for a hyper carry kind of style. If any of you are planning and you have her like at level 1 and you have no idea what value she provides, don't think Tingyun is like the number 1 4-star. Things could change, especially if, for example, we start needing a character that doesn't care about the energy restoration that Tingyun provides. Huynh is my first pick in terms of the most underrated character in Honkai Star Rail right now. I think that she has value to improve, and I think she's a mispriced character right now. People don't really see her value because everyone is blinded by another limited 4-star, which is Tingyun, which is rightly so in the current game state as of time of recording. The next character that I think is also very mispriced and people are not going to care about too much is her sister, in law at least, is Sherman. I think that this character is super good. For especially if you're a new player into the game. Some of you like whales, or maybe you're really long time players, you have a lot of DPSs, you probably won't feel her value as much. But if you are a free-to-play player, and for example, you didn't manage to pull a character like Silverwolf, where's my Silverwolf? Zilberwolf here. If you don't have her, which for those of you who don't really know her kit, she drops weaknesses into the enemy so that you are basically able to tackle any content with pretty much your same roster. That is the benefit of Silverwolf, and Sherman does exactly kind of like the same thing. Her ult, as you can see here, ignores enemies' weakness typing, which means you can bring her into ice weakness, lightning weakness, whatever not. In all sorts of meta, she will still be able to inflict at least a bit of weakness break, meaning that she will forever be somewhat relevant. Her usage rate makes no sense, like people are not playing this character. Likely is because the bulk of the players, the community that has been contributing to a lot of data sources are the older players, the longer time players. Newer players might not have contributed to the stats for fail because they haven't cleared like MOC, haven't cleared Pure Fiction. So you, as a new player, you might not be that incentivized to contribute to a lot of these community stats. And I think that Sherman is a character that is super underrated because she's tackling a lot of content with her ult. Her skill, especially with Eidolons, as you go on into the game, she will have an ability that allows her to attack enemy weaknesses also in like her talent follow-up ability that she has. At the end, like E6, it decreases the max stacks, but basically E2 is like her tremendous power, which is quite affordable, or most people will get it in time, like maybe 2 banners, 3 banners when you pull on her to get this like E2. It's not as if you need her E6. So a very versatile character, also a destruction character, which means that she has pretty nice access to a lot of light cones. You have, of course, a free-to-play one, for example, like on the fall of an Aeon, if any of you want to use that. You have other light cones accessible to that are pretty decent, especially now with the new one out. I don't have it on this account as of time of recording. The new one that gives a little bit of crit destruction, free-to-play players are enjoying a little bit more, and I think that don't sleep on this character, especially if you're a new player. She's a DPS that will do very well in time, which brings me to my third character, a DPS that was around from the start of the game that I think is still pretty underrated for today because a lot of people have other characters in the game, and that is Serval. I think this character is tremendously underrated, at least in my opinion, if you are a newer player. If you are a player that you are old-timer already, you have Kafka, you have Jingyuan already at like level 80 out of 80, and you already have them super well built, Serval's value diminishes very greatly, but her usage rate is so abysmally low, despite her being one of the best 4 stars in the game, in my opinion, considering that she's free, and also she's able to contribute a lot. In case any of you who don't know, she's the only character that has a very unique basic attack, or maybe one of 3 right now in the game. She's the only character here, as you can see, that is able to splash damage with her basic attack. Meaning that if you see here, like deals lightning damage to a single target, although this basic is single, she enhances it with this basic attack deals lightning damage or splashing onto adjacent units with a pure basic. No need to enhance, no need to whatever, you get it. Which means that the requirement for her to use her skill becomes a lot less because she gets so much value out of like doing basic attacks already and stuff like that, which means that she generally can be a skill point generator for your team if you're looking for erudition skill point generator as your second slot so that you can funnel into a main DPS. I think she will work well in a pair with another DPS that might be a bit more skill point hungry, and maybe you want to apply like debuffs like shock onto the enemies. I think it's going to be pretty interesting too. She recharges her burst extremely fast. She has 100 energy burst cost only, and if you see her talent here, she has tons of like energy restoration. Entering battle, whenever she triggers her talent here, as you can see, like deals more lightning damage when enemies are shocked and whatnot. That I think she's amazingly strong, super good for a free-to-play character. The reason why she's not used a lot nowadays is because a lot of us have been playing for like almost a year now, and we already have other characters built. If you're a new player just joined the game, maybe you are looking for a lightning character to check off. She's excellent in the pure fiction game mode if you're looking for a lightning DPS to just like burst down the squishies. Consider Serval. I really like her since the start of the game, and I still do like her today. I think it's just a tremendous good value for a free-to-play player. Underrated, very underrated in my opinion, at least. The next character that I want to talk about, let's talk about a 5-star now, shall we? Instead of like talking all about 4 stars. A 5-star that I think is super underrated right now is probably Topaz and Nambi. I think out of all of the limited 5 stars in the game, a lot of people like rank which is like the best, which is the worst and stuff like that. There's a lot of like clarity that Jingliu right now is like probably the best in the game, but out of all of them, the one that is like neglected, even Argenti saw like his limelight starting in the pure fiction already. Topaz and Nambi, although she got better with Dr. Ratio in the follow-up teams and stuff, she is still very, very underrated. Not very many people know and care or talk too much about this character. Firstly, of course, you must understand that she was just right after Jingliu, a super meta DPS that was like everyone's favorite for the longest time. So definitely she's not as popular, Topaz and Nambi, but she's a very strong unit, and here's why. We already talked about why I think like she's one of the characters that's going to scale very well with time. If you haven't seen that video, it's just the one that we put out. Check that video out if you're looking for characters that appreciate value with time. But I not only think she'll appreciate with time, I think she's tremendously underrated as well. She deals a lot of follow-up attacks. If any of the future characters come out with follow-up attacks, you have Adventuring if any of you like his kit and stuff. Topaz and Nambi is very interesting. Hopefully she reruns like in the near future, and I think she likely will in like the next patch or two. Worth considering because you have IPC characters coming up like Adventuring, who knows, maybe like this Diamond or what other knot that they have. They all seem to follow like gem names and stuff like that. She plays into the follow-up category because she increases follow-up damage, and basically her damage scales with the amount of follow-up that your teammate does as well. She is like coming into the meta slowly, but still very, very underrated. Maybe because she's the only IPC right now, but this is one character that I think can appreciate in value in a little bit, as well as being quite mispriced by the community in general too. So that is 4 characters. I was thinking about who do I want to talk about in the last like section here. Like Herta, appreciated value. Everyone knows like meta characters like Pella, Tingyun, and etc, etc. Everyone knows they are good. Even now like Sampo from like not super meta, now he's like being brought in because DOT is getting another climb up again. Then I was like thinking, do I want to talk about all the meta characters or do I want to talk about something else? And I think it's probably better to talk about a character that I think, in my opinion, is probably a pretty decent character that a lot of people are underrating. And that unit, in my opinion, would probably be Esther. Now, there's a lot of characters in the game, and I would say that Esther is already not too bad. But considering the fact that Esther is a free character, and also she's able to give you a lot of speed, for the reasons mentioned for Hanya, if you like a character that gives speed instead of energy, Esther does that, and she does it for the entire team. When does Esther actually become better than Hanya is Esther actually provides an AoE buffing, whereas Hanya is more of like a single target hyper carry kind of buffing. If you have damage coming from more than one sources, Esther is your go-to. There are a few characters only in the game currently, Harmony characters at least, that buff multiple DPSs. The first is Esther, the second is a character, for example, like Ronmei, and of course you have your defense shredders like Pella, Silverwolf and stuff. But if you're talking about Harmony, really it's like Ronmei, Esther, you have characters like Huo here to some extent, and you might even argue maybe Yukong is one of them if you can manage your skill points well. But out of all of them, I think Esther is probably the easiest to understand, very simple to run. I think she's very underrated, especially if you're a new player. Don't just think of Tingyun. Everyone's talking about Tingyun, Bronya, Ronmei. Don't neglect these other Harmony characters because they're very, very usable too. And that is pretty much summing up for my 5 underrated characters in this list. Check out the other videos. I think on the channel you'll find it tremendous value, especially when we talk about historic trends and future trends of what might happen if you guys just want another opinion to plan your account progression. Hope this video was helpful. If it was, like and subscribe for more such future content. See you next video.